Hi everyone and welcome. We are gonna wait a little bit until we start, maybe wait 3 minutes, and then we're gonna get going. Great, and now we see your screen as well, Catherine. Nice, I see at least a few people have joined us. Great, and for our newcomers, I'm just gonna wait a couple more minutes before we get started, but it's really exciting to see all of you here today. And I'm going to repeat this, but we are recording this session as well. So just be aware of that if you're joining. Okay, great. I think we can get started. So hi and welcome everybody. Today I have with me a stellar team that are gonna get to introduce themselves as well. My name's Ruth, and today we're gonna talk about collaborative circular innovation, engaging users in co-design. And I see a few of you I know from before, so it will be interesting to see what kind of reflections you have from this session. But without further ado, I think we can go ahead. So Katie, if you want to go to next. Just before we start, please feel free to use the chat to pop questions or reflections, and we will be recording today's session, and we can move on. So please, before we get started, post in the chat where you are joining from today. This is an official World Circular Economic Forum event, so I know that we have people joining from different places. And I can continue talking, so you can post while I keep speaking. Today we're going to talk to you about a little bit about RISE, where we all work, and then the Circular Business Lab. My colleague Sarah Falahi is going to give a little bit background to the project that we will be speaking about, and then Catherine will present the game demo and the circular co-design process. And then we'll have some conclusions, and hopefully we'll have 10 minutes for Q&A where you can ask questions or follow up. But without further ado, let's move on to the next, and I can speak a little bit about RISE. So RISE is Sweden's research institute. We're a lot of people, 3,000 people, who work in different parts of Sweden, and our mission is basically to make the industry sustainable, transition the industry so it becomes sustainable and competitive in Sweden. And our mission is really about enabling that transition, so on many different levels. So we have people working with materials and transforming materials to become circular, but we also have the high-level perspective and a lot of digital innovation happening. So really taking that holistic view of transforming a society. We have more than 130 test beds. I visited one the other day where they actually measure how much a kilo is. Every year, really cool stuff, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. So the team here today, if we go to the next slide, We have two different teams, business design and technologies for interaction. Me and Catherine Whalen, a senior researcher who you'll meet in a bit. We both sit in business design, where our focus is business model innovation, circular design, circular business model. We're a range of service designers, product designers, and have a lot of those topics. And then we also have the director of technologies for interaction with us, Sarah Falahi, where their team also focuses on sustainable design, digital resilience, really a human and computer interaction, really interesting stuff. And then we have the Circular Business Lab, where we work as a collaborative consultancy or an innovation lab to really take all the great research that's being done, but maybe in very lengthy projects, and given that in a more fast manner, maybe we do sprints, or really trying to accelerate companies to pick up those new ideas and the research that's been done and implement it in their business as quickly as possible, because we want action. We can go to the next slide. So, and you've met me, I'm a business designer sitting in the business design team as well. Sarah Falahi, as I introduced earlier, and then of course, Catherine Whalen, the senior researcher of the project. Thank you. And I'm gonna hand over to Sarah.
Thank you. Let me try to request to get over the control, and let's hope that this works out. So nice of you to join us today. Happy to share some results and reflections from this project with you, which is called Circular Co-Creation, or the project formal name is like game-based approaches to create innovative circular value propositions. It is a project which is just about to end, a 3-year project, including some parental leaves, adding to 4 years in reality. But it's a project that has been financed by FORMAS, where we, some of the colleagues at Technologies for Interaction, together with colleagues at Business Design, got to collaborate and work together towards this topic of co-creation in circular offerings. And there we also had the chance and opportunity to engage a fantastic scholar from Loughborough University, Princess Woy. Let me see. It seems like I cannot change slides, even though that I have. Now it worked, or maybe someone else. Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Then I will ask you, please, to help me out. I will show you and tell you a bit more about the team, but the main objective basically for today is to, besides sharing some of the reflections that we have had through this project, is also to give you the room and space to reflect about some challenges that you have seen in sort of bridging the gap between circular economy and users or consumers of circular products, so that we can have some exchange on that. We're also going to sort of explore how companies and users can work together in a co-creation or co-design space to enhance circular solutions. And then, of course, we would also like to introduce you to Moving Planets, which is the game or innovative game-based tool that has been developed through the course of this project. If we go to the next slide, here you see the team behind this project. A fantastic group of researchers, designers, developers, and interns who have joined the project during different periods of time. Some have been from the beginning part of the project, and some joined later. And it's been a great pleasure working with them, and it's been a fantastic teamwork, I would say. And next slide, to give you a bit of background about the project, and let's dive in. The idea basically for this project started in 2021 during the pandemic. And all of us, of course, were struggling with not being able to meet each other. And in our projects and our discussions on the circular economy topic, in one of those situations that we couldn't meet physically, me and another colleague were having a walk and talk. I was basically walking in the forest, and we were discussing this issue of, or like this challenge that companies have with scaling their circular business models. And we were discussing how can we actually help them, and why is it that circular business models don't scale, and what can RISE offer to help them out. And especially during the pandemic, we were also discussing like, is it becoming even more challenging for designers and product developers when they cannot meet their users or the consumers of their products? And can we actually have another sort of alternative for them to engage with their users? And the core of this challenge, if we think about like, why is it that a lot of circular business models don't get adopted by a big pool of users, and then in that sense they don't scale, is that sometimes they actually struggle with engaging users and their needs in the process of designing circular products and offers. Sometimes it is also connected to other type of challenges in interaction with other companies, for example, because in a circular economy, you all of a sudden have to collaborate with a lot of new type of actors that in traditional business model, maybe you haven't been used to collaborating with. You need like companies that take care of your products. You need companies that bring back your products from the customers, maybe repair them. You need a lot of added services that can be offered by other companies and collaborators. You also need to, as I said before, a completely new way of interacting and engaging with your users that all of a sudden not necessarily own the product anymore. And they don't pay only once for your product. You need to have value creation which lasts longer for them, and you need to keep your products attractive for them and make sure that all their needs are met along the way in terms of new and different type of services. So if we want to summarize that in terms of what is needed in the circular business models and circular offerings, is a lot of collaboration. If you move to the next slide, and this is of course not, it's not something that hasn't happened in other domains. There is a lot to learn from like engaging with users and collaboration from research and from established methods that sort of apply user-centered design. I mean, design as a field has a lot to offer to be able to help the companies in really addressing users' needs, and that's what we have also been trying to use in the project, basically bridging, building a bridge between understanding users' needs and the design process. And the next slide, please. And then when we started basically with this, like, okay, how do companies currently engage with users, and what are the challenges that they see when they engage with users? This is a very nice framework, which you can see in this slide, adapted from Sanders and Stapers from 2012 paper that they have on this, and it shows basically two pyramids in terms of how companies understand users and what type of knowledge is created in that exchange. And what we see in the top of the pyramid is that you can ask people about what they need, and you can let them think, and you can let them say to you what they need, or you could sort of observe them in action to be able to understand their needs. You can ask them and observe what they do, and how they use the products, for example, or how they engage with new services. And if we dig even deeper, then you want to get access to what people know, how they feel, and what they dream about. What are their passions, and what are their values core to their being. And then, of course, you need different methods to be able to engage with users on these different levels. You can use traditional methods such as interviews and surveys when you want to ask people about what they think or what they need. You can observe them, as I said, and do diary studies and use like user tests if you want to understand what they do and how they engage with products and services. And you can also really try to engage with them in a like reflection over their ideas and their like how they perceive things and how they feel things. And that allows you to move basically in this knowledge spectrum between explicit knowledge to observable knowledge to very latent tacit knowledge on the users. And next slide, please. And when we what we did also in this project was to talk to the companies and to ask like how they currently engage with users and what do they see as the challenges. And one of the interviewees in these interviews had a good way of relating to this pyramid, which was like at the top of the pyramid, when you ask people what they think and you do surveys and interviews, then you get access to a big pool of users, but the data that you get from them is very thin compared to when you engage with fewer users, like maybe the number is lower, but you can actually really understand these tacit needs that they have. Then you get a smaller data, but it's much thicker. And that is the challenge for the companies, to balance between these two type of extremes. We can go to the next slide where you can see other type of challenges that we identified through these dialogues with the companies that they see in, for example, how some were very skeptical and they had concerns about the nature of the user contributions just because of this fact that sometimes users don't know what they actually need. Sometimes they have a hard time formulating in words and saying like what they need when you ask about their problems and their challenges. Sometimes they sometimes they're too kind and too nice and they don't necessarily open up and really share what they think, especially if they have been using our products for a long time and there is some sort of a long-term relationship between the company and the users. It's sometimes also difficult to recruit users in user tests, and especially if you want to have a diverse group of users with different type of needs in the process. Internally, some companies also have it difficult to be good at understanding users' needs, what you should ask, and how you should engage with the users, basically. There is also lack of methods and tools for doing that, and also the processes sometimes in companies to be able to use with this or to work with these methods is quite lengthy and it requires some paperwork and is quite bureaucratic. Moving to the next slide, we brought all these reflections and great challenges that the companies shared with us and thought about what is an alternative way? How can we create a space for the companies and users to engage with each other in a way that it allows a little bit more of that type of small, thick data where users can do things and companies can observe things and there can be other type of exchange between them. And gamification and games are a very good and handy approach to solve this gap, to solve this problem, because gamification basically means that you want to create a playful game-based environment with an intention to either create more knowledge or education on a certain topic in the game space, or you want to create even a behavioral change through the game. And it's fun when people actually engage in a game environment and in a playful environment, because they would like to spend more time on it if they can actually get challenged in another way. And that is what we have applied in this project then to use co-design and user-centered design together with the companies. So if you go to the next slide, then the summary of all these reflections and these different topics and how they interrelate with each other is this basic question: how can games aid co-design of user-centered circular offerings? And how can we actually create a gamified space for co-design of user-centered circular offerings? I will leave it to Katie now, our project manager in this project, to walk us through the design process of the game then.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for that good setup for talking about the game process and the game, which is what we're going to share in a short while. And as Sarah said, I'm going to share a little bit about the game design process. Really, I'm going to focus on the circular co-design process that we developed that powers the game, you could say. So it's the process behind the game. So I'll give a little sneak peek about that, and then we'll go into to show a little bit of the game demo. So I have to credit our visiting researcher, our visiting PhD design researcher from Loughborough University, Princess Woy, who is really the powerhouse behind this, the structure behind the game in terms of a co-design, a circular co-design workshop format. So we wanted to find out how to do circular co-design in a circular context, and being researchers, many papers were read. This is just an overview of some of the papers and the processes that we pulled out from these papers. We read both circular focused co-design papers and also co-design, more like just co-design with not a circular focus. This is very complex, so we've tried to summarize it into a 4-step process, which is the overall process is here. And again, I have to credit Princess Woy for the outstanding work behind this. The overall process begins with preparing, then understanding and sensitizing, which I'll define in a minute, ideate, evaluate, and develop, and then reflections and next steps. So this could be what we could say as a circular co-design process. And I promised that I would define sensitize. So in a co-design context, sensitize really means to raise awareness and deepen understanding among the participants of the co-design process in terms of the context of the problem, the stakeholders, or different issues that they're trying to investigate in the process. So I'll break this down. So when we talk about co-design, that means that a co-design process has 2 parts. And in our context for our project, we really took it to be providers. So anyone who provides a solution from someone else, for someone else. It could be a company, it could be a person, it could be a municipality. So we have providers and then we have users. So the users are the people that are using this solution. So we have this co-design process with different steps, and the pink that is shown right now is the provider side. So during prepare, they would create sort of an orientation to circular economy. They would set a scope. So what are we trying to achieve by this co-design process? Then they would try to understand the user's experiences, and then they would scope a design challenge, evaluate ideas from provider perspective, provide comments to users, create concepts, sum up and reflect, and decide on next steps. But of course, in a circular economy, you need to sort of create a business ecosystem. You rarely can do circular business model innovation by yourself. So we have also included that we think it's important that providers can collaborate with each other. And that can happen at many stages, actually, of this co-design process as visualized here. And this is last but not least, the blue on the bottom represents the users. So the people that are, again, using those solutions provided by the providers. And to recap, we have the provider process in the pink and the user process in the blue at the very bottom. So you can see that there's an interaction, right, between the providers and the users. The providers set the scope, but then they start to understand the user's experiences. And in order to do that, they need to work with the users and have them share experiences that then leads into scoping such a design challenge. They need to brainstorm ideas together, then evaluate those ideas, and then also just help see if the users can also contribute to the evaluation. The users also get to develop ideas in a co-design process. They also help to evaluate concepts, and one process feeds into the other. So it's not a linear process, it's an iterative process where there's many parts going back and forth. And we are working on publishing this material. So I will leave it at that for now. But if you're, of course, interested in learning more about this process and want to go more in depth and really understand, because in a seminar right now, we don't have that much time to discuss it. Of course, please ask questions and reach out as well. Looking at the time, I would now like to show the final game prototype that we developed as part of this project. So this really is, we aimed to create a digital gamified circular co-design process, drawing on the process that I just showed you. And really what we tried to do in this, we called the game in the end Moving Planets, because the players, the users who play this game, they are playing it from the perspective of people that are moving to new planets to create more sustainable lives after destroying Earth. But we envision that Moving Planets is used to co-develop new circular products and services between providers and users. So basically, sometimes I say users or customers. They don't have to be customers, but sometimes they are customers if you have providers as companies. Here it says companies as well, but that means I'm using that as sort of providers and companies interchangeably. But again, as I said, it doesn't have to be just companies. Providers could be, again, municipalities or things like that. So in this game environment, companies can exchange ideas together, and they can also exchange insights with customers or users. So I will move into the demo part of the session. Let me just find I'm going to share the screen. Sharing. And I will let the demo.
Welcome to this demo of Moving Planets. This platform is designed to bring businesses and customers together in real time to co-create circular products and services. In this demo, we'll explore both the provider side for businesses and the player side for customers. Let's start with the provider side. After signing in, providers land on their home screen. In this demo, we're viewing a provider who has already set up a company profile. Let's take a quick look at that profile. We've already created a demo company called Test Try Electronics. Their profile includes a short description of the company, a pitch directed at potential partners, their selected circular priorities, and relevant sectors that they have chosen to align with. These sections are all fully customizable. Providers currently have two main features available to them: collaborator matching for connecting with other companies or service providers, and co-design journeys for collaborating directly with their customers. Let's take a look at what matching looks like. This feature allows providers to browse other organizations and match based on shared priorities. For example, the first company we see matches Test Try on 3 priorities: refuse, repair, refurbish. The next one, a footwear company, matches on 2. A third matches on 3. We can choose to match with a company. Once a match is made, both parties are notified and can begin exploring collaboration opportunities. We're currently working on features that support this. Now let's move on to the co-design journeys. Test Try Electronics has already created a few journeys. Let's look at one called Forgotten Tech. Each journey consists of 4 mini-games. Let's look at them in order. The first mini-game is a scavenger hunt. This one specifically is designed to help users reflect on how they currently use and store tech. In this journey, the scavenger hunt is titled The Drawer of Good Intentions. Players are asked to open a drawer, shelf, or bag where they stash broken or unused electronics and take a photo of what's inside. This game has already been set up as from the company, as you can see. The next mini game is the brainstorm. We'll move to that now. In this demo, Test Try invites players to imagine the perfect repair experience. What would it take for them to actually repair a device instead of replacing it? Test Try has also selected several keywords to help players spark ideas. These keywords appear to users during the game, guiding their creative process. The third mini game is called Role Play and is presented to the players as issues that they have to solve. Role plays are generated based on user-submitted ideas. So in this demo, a few roleplay entries appear, but in a live journey, they would only appear after user input. So in other words, they draw on the user-generated output from the brainstorm minigame. The final minigame is called Time Machine. And while the previous minigame, Roleplay, draws on user-generated concepts, Time Machine is focused on provider-generated concepts. So here, providers test out early-stage ideas by presenting concepts they're considering. Players vote on the ones that resonate most with them. So in this example, Test Try has developed 3 concepts: an automatic self-kiosk service, a repair collective cafe, and a subscription-based repair app. Now that we've reviewed all 4 mini games, we'll go ahead and publish the first 2, the scavenger hunt and the brainstorm. As mentioned, the latter 2 mini games are meant to build on data gathered from the first 2. So ideally, they would only be created and published once sufficient responses are received. While we wait for players to engage with the Forgotten Tech journey, let's take a look at an earlier journey that Test Try Electronics already created for the sake of this demo. In this demo, it focuses on charging devices. We'll go into the review section to see how users responded to the mini-games. For example, let's take Scavenger Hunt. The task here asked users to reflect on how they charge their devices at home. Players submitted photos showing both good and bad examples of charging setups, providing useful insights into behavior and habits. Let's take a look at the brainstorm. So in the brainstorm, users responded to the prompt, how could you charge your devices in a more circular way? And Test Try Electronics, the demo company, has already received several user-generated ideas. For example, one user proposed a modular charging unit. Another proposed a shared charging station. And a third idea involves energy tracking through an app, companion app. Based on these brainstorms, users then participated in a role play. They were given multiple options for future charging solutions and asked to choose which they'd prefer. Results show that one solution was chosen by 2 users, one was chosen by 1, and one was chosen by no users. In the final mini-game, Time Machine, Test Try shared 3 charging concepts. User preferences leaned towards one of the solutions based on current responses. Now let's log in as a demo player and see the other side of the platform. When players log in for the first time, they are greeted with an introductory screen that sets the stage for the game. They're told that this is more than a game. It's a platform will help solve real-world challenges submitted by actual organizations. Next, players are immersed in the story setting of the game. For example, that it's the year 2125 and that Earth has reached its breaking point. Centuries of overuse and waste have left the planet uninhabitable, and now the last survivors have launched into space aboard massive ships looking for a new world to call home. Players are told that they've been chosen as leaders of these new societies, and that their mission is to build and maintain a thriving, sustainable civilization adhering to circular principles. Before the gameplay begins, players are introduced to the concept of the circular economy. They can watch a short video explaining the idea. They're introduced to key circular principles. Each principle is interactive, and they can click on it to learn more. This ensures that all players start with the understanding of circular economy. Players then move into creating their own society. In this phase, they can choose 3 circular priorities that will guide their decisions. In this demo, the player has already selected reuse, refuse, and reinvent. They can also adjust cultural values from 4 options to shape the tone of their community. They can name their society, they can create a motto, and they can also create an emblem to represent their vision. So once the setup is complete, players arrive at their home screen. From here, they can explore various options, and this is where it links to the mini games set up by the providers. So let's take a look at what 2 of these mini games look like from the player's side. For the interest of time, we're only going to look at 2 of these mini games in this demo. So let's look first at the scavenger hunt. So you might notice that we have the one we created earlier, the drawer of good intentions. And now that players have selected the scavenger hunt, they're prompted to take a photo, in this case of where they store unused or broken tech. This feature doesn't fully work on my computer right now because I'm using a computer and I haven't allowed camera access, but there is a timer countdown to encourage real-time participation, and players typically complete this on a mobile device where they can easily take and upload photos directly into the game. Next, we're going to move on to the brainstorm minigame, which players see as issues. So issues for them to take care of for their society. In this case, the issue is titled Reimagining Repair, and we created this one earlier on the provider side. So here, players are asked to come up with a solution based on the challenge prompt. The interface mirrors what we came up with earlier with familiar keywords and context. Players can choose from a variety of keywords for this. So let's say I pick DIY, community-led, and modular, maybe home workspace, local workspace, modular components, digital repair assessment, 3D print parts. Players also have the option to write in their own features. And now, using the help of generative AI, we're going to generate a visualization for this solution that I came up with. So here is my proposed solution, and at this point, players have a few options. They can either accept the solution as is, they can regenerate it to see if they'd like to have a new variation, or they can edit it. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and accept the generated solution. So the idea behind here is that the system has selected my keywords to build a relevant concept, but it still remains editable for the player's customization. Okay, I've submitted that, and after submitting it, I've earned some points. So this is part of the game's reward system, which encourages players to stay engaged by recognizing their contributions to the circular mission of their society. At this stage, players would ideally wait for providers to publish new proposals or concepts based on the solutions that have been user-generated, so submitted by users like them. And then they would be able to view their own submissions as well as explore other players' solutions and then vote on the proposals they find most promising. Players also have the ability to implement solutions within their own societies. And finally, players are able to review provider-generated solutions developed from the community's earlier input. While we have seen a little bit what these look like from the provider side, because of the time today for today's demo, we won't unfortunately be able to see what they look like from the player's perspective. That concludes our demo of Moving Planets. We've explored both the player and provider experiences. Thank you so much for watching.
Okay, so that was a quick overview of the working prototype that we have. I'm going to share my slides again.
Yes, and here now we would like to hear a little bit of your reflections, both when it comes to what you just saw in terms of a gamified space for collaboration between companies and users, but also about your, if you have previously or currently, if you work as a designer or product service developer, or in another role or function that is connected to circular offerings. We would also like to hear a bit about your thoughts of how you think your organization can collaborate more effectively, both with users and with other companies. So what we would like you to do is to either scan this QR code or to go to menti.com and put this code, or you can even click on this link that I just shared in the chat. And that takes you to Menti, where these questions are posted. If I will try to now share screen so we can actually look a little bit while the answers are being posted. So please don't wait and start with, let's see, the first question. I'm gonna share my screen now here also. No one has put any answers yet, so I will give you some time to think and reflect.
Maybe you can share a little bit of the Katie and Sarah, what some of your learnings were just top of mind while we wait.
Of course, now we actually see that there are also answers coming, but go ahead, Katie. You want to share something?
I was going to say how to do. This is echoing some of the research that we found in the project, was how to structure the process, what kinds of tools and methods can we use, and also the issue of sharing knowledge and ideas between companies. That has been something that comes across as well, because people are trying to work collaboratively, but we also ran into this when we were developing the game. People who are the user side, the customer perspective, some of them were a bit hesitant to share information because they were saying, well, I don't want to give away my ideas. That's how some people viewed it. But I want to hear from everyone who's on the webinar today. So I maybe Sarah, you've had a chance to read some of these while I've been speaking.
Yes, and I see that they are, many of them are actually very similar to also what we have perceived in this project, talking to different companies. It's about like creating a space for reflections and discussions and sharing ideas, but also maybe even structures and priority and investment for being able to work with other companies and design an experiment together. There are some comments about more how to create this environment, and the game could be a great format. Can companies get access to this prototype? We will get to that. Absolutely, you can reach out to us if you would like to test the game with your company, for example. Helping business understand how the new business model can generate revenue and profit. That is definitely also one thing that we see with many companies like this, especially when it comes to long-term return of investment. More work has to be done on that. And also when companies collaborate together, then it becomes more of this value generated versus investment and time and effort put. And then that of course we need to have structures for companies to be able to address those questions early on in collaboration. Creating framework and policy landscape, policy and how that can both facilitate but also prevent progress with this type of models is something that we have also seen. We didn't work with it very much hands-on in this project, but of course, different levels of policy interventions for enabling circular economy is very critical also. Perhaps some companies would like to specify which sectors they are hoping to collaborate with. That is also a very good comment, because in a circular economy, all of a sudden, the traditional boundaries between sectors and industries also vanish, and then you can collaborate and products and components can be exchanged with other sectors. And playing this game ourselves as a way to get buy-in from the entire organization definitely would be really nice also if some of you would like to play the game and test it. Should we move to the next question? Perhaps I think if you try the code again or refresh the page on your phone or your computer, you will get now to the next question, which is, where does gamification seem useful as a tool for circular innovation? And you can either reflect on how we have used it in this project, or you can reflect on other type of uses of gamified methods and tools for circular innovation.
While everyone is thinking, I wanted to ask you, Sarah, now that we are at the end of the project, has your thoughts about using gamification for circular innovation changed?
No, it has. I definitely see a lot of value and potential in using gamified tools for circular economy. I think in this project we did a lot of we had a lot of emphasis, and we did a lot of work on prototyping and creating the actual tool. Maybe in the next project or in another in a future possibility, we can also explore the structures that companies need to be able to use these tools and promote these tools. I think that's also one thing that I have reflected on quite a lot in this project, that okay, now that we have this, how can we take it and how can we implement it? How can we actually scale these tools then that we want companies to use besides their the traditional internal systems, and how can we sort of encourage them to dare to explore a bit more of this type of gamified spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are some answers coming. Learning about circular economy, gamifying how to understand what habits are good. That's that's also similar to something that we identified as another potential in this project. That's like how can you actually in the long term create a behavioral change in terms of users' habits in this type of gamified space. To teach about the circular economy in a fun way and create awareness as a consultancy advisory tool, environmental responsible careers or education perhaps, and business design or innovation. It's interesting that a lot of education and awareness is coming up in the different answers. I can see it with individual end users, but not sure how to use it in B2B setups, buyers or professional users of products. That's something that we tried to create, especially with this matching between the companies. So it would be if the person that has posted this comment, if you would like to explore this question with us, please reach out, because we are very much also interested in this B2B context of companies collaborating with each other or professional users and companies collaborating with each other. Useful in business training programs, while it would be more complicated to apply in the business environment because of the cultural aspects. Exactly, and that's what I was trying to get to also with this comment about the structures. You framed it much better with your comment. In classroom for students, for sustainability, climate change, circular economy, to find ideas within the organization. Great. I think, yeah, very, very interesting reflections. If the reflection process stays in the game setting, how will it change practices in reality, especially if you look so far in the future, it may be perceived as far away from reality. Maybe you want to comment on that, Katie, because I think we discussed this also a little bit about like how the designers can take their reflections and input in the game space back to their work, basically.
Yes, this is a good comment. This is one of the challenges that I've found when working with games and game-based approaches too, is like how much are people telling the truth sort of in they're not playing as another person, but it's reflecting real life. Or if you're developing new ideas, how much are those new ideas not really relevant today to today's real life? And I think that is, we had a lot of discussions about setting the game in like a spaceship world, but I think that is one approach to design too, is to kind of think outside your normal sort of perspective and then try to bring it back into your perspective. And I think that was also when we set up the mini games. I say that the mini games are, you can kind of align them quite well with that 4-step process that I showed earlier in the webinar. I think what we tried to do with the last mini game, it's called Time Machine, and we tried to have it that people actually get to select things that they want to use in their current daily life or send back to Earth. So we're asking them to send it back to Earth and then reflect on why they think it's useful to have it like in their present day life. And I think that's the role of the designers as well, then, to take this data that they're generating during the co-design journey and really be able to analyze it and find those nuggets of information and really say, okay, this is actually a user need that is being expressed here. So I think it's partially our job as designers to do the translation, but also the way that we can maybe structure the process by going out, thinking more widely, and then coming back and anchoring it a bit more in the present day. That also could help as well. I'm going to share the screen again because we have 2 remaining slides, I believe. So let me do that. Okay.
Yes, and really interesting to hear the reflections from you people. Go ahead, Katie.
Yes. No, that was it.
I can just quickly share also a bit about, as I mentioned, like the game itself that you saw in the demo has been one of the things that we explored, but and then we had some other stuff that we did and results that we have created in this project. Some work in progress is also we still have some papers, for example, in the development, but two things that we would like to share with you also besides the game itself is one is this joint circular value canvas, which could be also a handy tool for designers in companies and basically companies who want to collaborate with each other. What you see here is a sheet with like space for each company with what we call provider also in the game, to reflect and to plan a bit how they would like to work with their circular offering, and then together collaboratively explore possibilities for circular offerings, and coming up with ideas and preparing to check the ideas with the users. So this canvas is also available to test and use. And if you are interested in that, please let us know so we share the material with you. And then it would be also really nice to get some reflections and feedback on it. And then we have also published some of the results from the project in an academic paper at the Journal of Resources Conservation and Recycling, which is called Use-Centered Circular Value Propositions, Approaches in Practice and Research, where we basically did a review of what tools exist in practice to work with user-centered circular value propositions and what we see in previous research in terms of these tools. And as I mentioned, we also have some work in progress and some papers in the making. And I will leave it back to you, Ruth, to
Yes,
wrap
thank
up.
you. So unfortunately, we don't have that much time for questions, but we would obviously love to hear from you. So if you have thoughts or questions, or if you are looking for collaborations, we would love to hear from you. Either you can contact one of us, or you can use the QR code and you can get in contact with our colleague Perilla, who's on the website. But apart from that, thank you so much. And there's, of course, you could talk about this for hours because it's so interesting. I really liked that B2B conversation. Maybe we should try to do something among value chains, seeing how they can interact with each other. But yes, apart from that, very nice to have you all here today, and I hope you've had some new thoughts or learned something new. So thank you so much.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you.